Welcome to Buckets. I am your host, Brandon Anderson, here with Joe Delara. This is your Buckets season mega preview blowout. All the adjectives, right? We are here to just get ready for the season. It's here. You are listening to this on Monday when this drops. That means the season is tomorrow. We have actual, real, kind of meaningful NBA games. We can bet on them. There are props, there are sides and totals. We're here. Get all your futures bets in. The goal today is we just want to get our heads on. You know, we've been doing futures, Joe, for
Oh my
months now.
God. That's
Like
all we
so
talk
many
about.
texts back and forth, so many like, how about 300 to 1 here, right? So the goal today is just okay, who do we want to bet on right now? What are the early leans we're looking at? And who do we need to watch to see how we're going to bet them going forward? There's certain teams where I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely not betting this team out of the gates.
Yeah.
But I want to watch because I need to learn and see, where we go. And so sometimes over under for certain teams out of the gates. Maybe we're fading the vibes for a team or fading hype for another team. Early prop angles, Joe and I always have some prop angles to talk about. There will be Halliburton
Oh yeah.
players that we want to talk about, or systems, new coaches, rotations. Just basically, all right, you're here. It's the season. What are we watching? What should you be watching for? Before we get into it, don't forget, of course, make sure if you haven't yet, you've got to get the Action Network app. Follow us on the app. Joe and I have all of our picks on there, and I do mean all, and there are a lot of them. Get your notifications on. You'll be getting picks from us all day, all evening, live picks during the game, barrage of props picks. Get your escalator props picks ready to go. We're coming at you. So be sure to get the app. Seriously, I'd be using it even if I wasn't working here. Just track everything on there, real time updates on scores and all the stats you need, all the trends. Everything is in there. So, all right, let's get to it. The goal is we're going to touch on every team. This is a two-part mega preview, blowout, etc. We're going to start with the Eastern Conference today. The teams are roughly in order of interest. Interest to us, hopefully interest to you, and interest in what do we want to see early, what do we want to bet early. So a little more time on the teams at the top, perhaps a little less time on the teams at the end. Joe, how you feeling about the season? You ready to do this?
Dude, I'm pretty excited. So I know a lot of people don't necessarily tune in right away, but I don't mean honestly, if you're listening to this podcast, we know that you're going to be paying attention immediately. So this is going to be great.
All right, well, let's jump in. We got 30 teams to get to. So for me, the team that has to be at the top are the Brookyln Nets, because what in the world are the Brookyln Nets? I don't want to bet this team at all right now. I want to watch this team because I don't know what they are and I need to watch. I'm going to watch every minute and I need to learn. So things I'm watching for: Ben Simmons. Who are you? What do you do? What position is Ben Simmons? I know things are positionless, but who's he guarding? Is he guarding the perimeter? Is he a center now? Is he moving around? Do they play any defense? Like, is there any effort at all involved on defense, or are we just going to smash overs on these teams right out of the gates? So I want to see how all that shapes up. Joe Harris, where are you, buddy? Seth,
Supposedly back.
supposedly back. Seth Curry, are you there? TJ Warren, remember him? Is
Oh my
TJ
God.
Warren going to play some minutes? Like,
Forgot about
what's
him.
in? Like, there's so many weapons on this team. There's so much shooting. I just need to see it. I want to see what do the rotations look like? What do the lineups look like? Is Steve Nash literally doing anything? I need to see it. So, what are you looking for from the Nets?
Dude, so I mean, I really want to see obviously how KD, Kyrie, and Benjamin play together. It's not really like preseason numbers aren't super indicative of how they're gonna be, but their offense is booty right now. Like they're only scoring 96.7 points per 100 possessions right now in the preseason. So no matter how you cut that, that's not really great. I know they brought in Igor Kokoskov, who was the coach of the Suns there in that 19 and 60 whatever 63 win season. So that's not whatever, but he honestly should be able to help design some plays and maybe help Nash with that, because I think Nash was almost such a good point guard just because he was able to do things that other guys couldn't do. That I don't know how I feel his play designing is not the best. So I mean that might help. And one thing that I'm looking for, at least from a prop angle, is with Simmons there now. To what extent is he going to be a primary facilitator instead of like Kyrie and Durant? Because and then also like, will we see Durant's assists maybe like improve as they try to work on a little bit more ball movement with the three of them? So it's maybe not like as ISO centric, and it's a little bit more team basketball with those like three guys instead of with the two.
Yeah, I like that. That's going to be interesting. And I think that I'm just going to call him Igor because I don't know how to say the last name as
Yeah,
well.
I tried.
Yeah. So he coached Team Slovenia back in Eurobasket the last time around when Luka and Goran and Zoran Dragic won the title.
Yeah.
So that's what I was associating with that, because then, of course, right after that is when he came to the NBA, hired by the Suns, who you may recall had the number one pick and did not take Luka. But that makes me think, okay, Ben Simmons is kind of Luka-ish in the sort of the size and passing creation, the sort of role that he is. Could our guy Igor, could he unlock Ben Simmons and maybe put him in some of those Luka type roles? I think we forget like how good Ben Simmons was, right?
Yeah, I mean, I really like Ben. I think some of our listeners might literally like stop listening to this, that you just compared Simmons to Luka. But
style of play, that's all. Style of play. So it's okay. Let's keep moving because we could just do the whole Nets podcast otherwise if we don't. So we're gonna do Cavs next. I'll go first on this one again because these are my Cavs at this point. Like I've been backing the Cavs every which way on the podcast all summer long. And then, of course, as I predicted, not really, they traded for Donovan Mitchell. So I want to see what does that look like? What is he actually going to be a contender for points per game? That's been one of our trendy Action Network sleeper picks. So is he going to put up 25, 30 points? We've seen Mitchell in playoff series, especially, really jack up a ton of threes and see a lot of volume. I think there's a lot of room for that in this offense. Like there's not a lot happening here. And what about Mobley, my guy? What sort of sophomore leap is in him? And will we see that flash immediately, even just down to the first week of the season? If I watch a game fresh, who do I think is the best player on this team? Because I think you can make a case. You could make a case for any of the four right now. Like you're probably not going to argue for Jarrett Allen if we're being totally honest. But Darius Garland, all-star last year, Donovan Mitchell, what they paid for him, he should be the answer to it. But man, if the answer is already Mobley, this team is it's going to be good. So what are you watching for on the Cavs?
I'm like very interested to see how their defense is with Mitchell. So I know like Mitchell was actually a really good defender in college, and then it kind of like fell off in the NBA. And like I imagine some of this has to do with the fact that he's had to be such a scorer in like every offense he's had really with the Jazz. So I'm wondering now, like if maybe with Cleveland's defense as it is, like maybe they have like a little bit more emphasis on that, or he just, maybe picks it up a little bit more this season. But I think their defense is going to be really good. And I'm wondering like I know like he's been the lead of like a ton of league leading offenses, but I'm wondering to what extent like maybe the pace slows a bit just because of their defense, or maybe they actually play a lot faster because their defense is so good they're going to get a lot of transition opportunities. So I'm pretty excited to see that, and I think him and Garland should really play well off each other. We know Garland can play in a backcourt with another guard, like Colin Sexton before he was hurt. So Mitchell's even better, and this is going to be really exciting to watch.
Yeah, I'm leaning unders on this team early because I think what I liked about this team, what I like still about this team is the defense, but adding Mitchell, I think is going to hype the team to where we're expecting, Donovan Mitchell is there now. There's gonna be this great offense. And I'm not sure if that will happen. And certainly if it does, I would expect it's going to take some time for them to figure it out. So if you get kind of a sluggish offense while they're sorting through growing pains, but have the big men defending well, we kind of forget how great their defense was because they weren't healthy together the back half of the year. So I feel like unders are the play. And then just overall, I think I'm fading Cleveland a little bit just until they prove it, because this is a team that went from not the target at all and the surprise team that teams were just not really prepared for. And now that they made the big trade, like you've got the target on your back now. So I'm going to have to see them and see JB Bickerstaff adjust to the hype and kind of prove it a little bit. Even though they're still my guys, I still like them, but I think as a better, I'll probably be looking to fade the hype a little bit early. Another team that made a big trade for DeJounte Murray, the Atlanta Hawks. What are you thinking with Atlanta early on?
So, like, I know we were betting on him a lot, especially like DeJounte. I mean, and people were, I know like a lot of gambling Twitter was smashing his like rebounds and assists line, and they kept opening it at like 16 and a half, and it's like you just hit it every time, and it was hitting. I'm actually really concerned here. I think the pace is going to be crazy between like him and like DeJounte and Trey. And I'm really interested to see because Trey was a really good spot up shooter, but he just wasn't doing it a lot. So I'm wondering to what extent they're going to say, like, maybe this quarter DeJounte is going to kind of run the offense. Trey, you're going to play a little bit more off ball, like how they're going to kind of weave that together. But I do think this team's going to play like very, very fast. And I also think that I think their offense is going to be excellent, but I also think that they're going to be held down by Clint Capella. And like I like Capella's fine. Like he's not like a bad, I'm not saying he's a bad player, but Okongwu is the guy that they need to, I think, take that next step. And if they don't move Capella or make that kind of move, I think that this team might like really struggle to reach their ceiling.
Yeah, I agree. I had Okongwu in my notes as well, and I think that's going to take some time just because Capella has the name and, quite frankly, the contract. So
Yeah.
I think that's going to happen right away. But yeah, the Hawks really lost some of their depth that they had, and I think on purpose a little bit. But that was part of the trade for Murray.
Had to, yeah.
So we need to see Okongwu step up. We need to see Hunter finally
Yeah.
show up and actually stay healthy and start to pay off on some of that potential that he's shown. You mentioned DeJounte. I could see his live props being interesting because I feel like there's going to be the times when Trey sits that normally this Hawks team has really struggled in recent years. That's
Yeah.
part of why I like the trade for them is that they finally have their backup point guard now. It's their other guard, DeJounte, who can run
100%.
things. So I could see with him kind of playing the highs and lows of when Trey's out, we're going to see those rebound assists suddenly coming. So if the line is getting, maybe he barely does anything in the first quarter with Trey and the lines get really deflated, then you can come back on it. And same with just Hawks second quarter, Hawks fourth quarter, is
Yeah.
that bench unit hopefully I think should be better with DeJounte running the show a little bit. So yeah, just seeing what does that bench unit look like and how does that play out for the team and for Murray's numbers. Because yeah, I think overall they're deflated, but then hopefully I think that's part of the point is to be able to balance things out with the team that way. So I think that'll be a really interesting watch. The Hawks last year, they were kind of like the sleeper team to be the 3 seed or the 4 seed.
Mhm.
And I was thinking about it. No one's really talking about that right now, but
No.
growth is not linear. And I wonder, it wouldn't surprise anyone, I think, if suddenly it's like, hey, DeJounte Murray fits, and this is a kind of a post type sleeper, and they're up in that, they're a tier higher than we thought.
Yeah, and I think their defense is going to be. I think DeJounte actually really improves their defense. So I mean, like Trey was somebody that was exploitable on defense. You could just really attack him. And granted, like teams play a lot of like different defenses during the regular season, but with DeJounte and Hunter, coupled with maybe Okongwu, like you're gonna get a really good defense that can kind of switch on like everything. So even then, like you can kind of hide Trey maybe a little bit there, and Collins is fine. Like Collins can play like defense when he wants to. So I think that it's gonna be like really interesting. I think their defense might actually be like, I'm not saying it's gonna be great, but DeJounte definitely improves the defense in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully he improves it. How much he improves it, I think, is the key thing
Fair.
with this team. It's like, do they go from mid 20s ranked to like below average? Can they get to
Yeah.
average? Can they get to fringe top 10? I think that sort of determines the trajectory. It's always fun watching those ratings, 5 games in too, because
Yeah.
you have like one good quarter and it completely skews everything.
Just going
So
crazy.
yeah, gotta love the small sample size. All right, Boston Celtics. It's just got to be the vibes. Got to like, what are the vibes on this team? That's my note for like 3 or 4 of these teams. Just like, so you had a summer. How's it going, Boston? How are we feeling about things? And what does this team look like with Joe Mazzulla? Are they just the same thing, or like what changes are happening there? What are you watching for in Boston?
This is tough, man. Like it's kind of like with that whole like, will they rally together? Like, are they gonna like come together? And I mean, we've seen their win total drop precipitously, and that's significant. Like that's a move that was like market wide. Like that was across the board. So I think you have to be a little bit cooler on them. And then also like you're not going to have Robert Williams for
Yep.
certain stretches of the season. Probably he's probably not going to play as many back to backs. And it's my understanding that that injury and that procedure that he's dealing with is one where it's a lot of it's like pain tolerance. So and like there can be a lot of swelling. So like he's a big dude. He's jumping like he's blocking a lot of shots. Like he's somebody that you're going to want and need to be healthy. And we saw it in the playoffs. So like I think that might impact the regular season a little bit. And you just honestly, you just never know when a body part of Malcolm Brogdon is going to explode. So like he's awesome when he can play, but you just don't know when he's going to get hurt. So I I struggle to see them being as good as they were last year, especially after I guess what was it that like mid-January or so.
January
So
29th. I've done that
yeah,
date a few times on this podcast.
yeah. So I don't know. I struggle to see them being as good, but like they're gonna be in the playoffs. Like they're gonna be good, but maybe they'll be a little undervalued, but like I don't really think so. I think it's tough when you have a different coach.
Yeah, and I think too, don't forget about Danilo Gallinari. Like that was
True.
another depth piece that they were supposed to have added, and then he's just out presumably for the season. So
Classic.
went from a team that, earlier in the summer that I was like, man, do you even trade for Kevin Durant with this roster? It's so deep, and the depth is what made it so good. And now it's almost flipped. It's like, man, who's playing off the bench for this team?
Yeah.
In the games where Time Lord is not out there and no Gallinari and inevitably no Brogdon at some point, like you said, there's been a lot of buzz about Grant Williams. I've been a long time a huge Grant Williams fan,
Grant
but like,
Williams stands.
what's yeah, where are we going with the buzz here? Like the man can defend for sure. He's got a great basketball IQ, but what else? What is
Shoot
the
threes.
upside for Yeah, well, he certainly shot a lot of threes in the one game that I decided to bet on Milwaukee against him, and then he hit like 8 threes the entire night because was that
Yeah.
Milwaukee? Is whatever the team that just
I think it was
absolutely refused to
Milwaukee.
guard him all night. So
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see about that. Peyton Pritchard, and they're excited about Hauser. We'll see if that's a thing. They're going to need some of these guys though because the depth is already a question mark. You don't like that going into the season.
No. So I think it's going to be really, I don't know. It's tough. Like it's going to be situational. And I feel like they won so many like close games, coin flip games, like in the second half of the regular season last year. That's tough to like really replicate again. Like I know they were so good, but it's like Al Horford's another year older. Like it's just, I think the only way that they can really do it is if Tatum like steps up and like becomes like I don't like he's already so good, but it's like the only way is if he becomes like a consensus top like three guy in the NBA. And like I just don't know if that's gonna happen.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't see Tatum as a top three guy. I kind of see him on the Paul George trajectory of like
Yeah.
maybe the one peak Tatum year at his very best in the right environment kind of gets to like, oh,
Kawhi.
okay, is he third? Is he third place on an MVP
Yeah.
ballot? Like to me, that's where it goes. But I didn't see him being what he is right now good either. So maybe he's got that in him still. Obviously, when you're on the wing with that, skill, anything is
It's
possible
possible.
there.
Yeah.
Speaking of anything is possible, your New York Knickerbockers. Listen, this team would have been like 6 more slots down the list for me. I don't have a lot of notes here, so I'm just going to give you the floor. What are you watching for in the Knicks?
Dude, I mean, it's gonna be. I mean, we know that you bet Jalen Brunson to be most improved.
Yes,
I've bet
sir.
it as well. It's what's the number 25-1 still 21 to
24,
1.
yeah, I think.
24. So bet that number one. You can also bet him for MVP if you want to get crazy. It's literally like 375 to 1. I had to get books to add it on so I could put a couple bucks on
Yeah, that's how
it.
you know it's a great bet. So go ahead
Yeah.
and bet the most improved, and then maybe just skip this part of the podcast.
Yeah.
Jalen
Like skip a
Brunson,
couple
most
times.
something player. We'll fill in the blank later. What else are you looking for on this team?
So, but part of why I'm looking at that is like the past couple seasons, or really like last season anyway, Randall led the team in assists, and that is just insane. Like he does not belong leading the team in assists. Like he barely wants to pass the ball. So now I think that you have a competent point guard. I think that should help not only the Knicks as a whole, but I think it should help Randall because he shouldn't feel as much pressure to really handle the ball. And it should also help RJ Barrett, who 2 years ago had like started to really develop like a great 3-point shot. And then I think that kind of fell off because last season there really wasn't a point guard. Kemba was hurt all the time. Derrick Rose missed the majority of the season. Now you're getting these guys back. So you're going to get Brunson, you're going to have Derrick Rose coming off the bench, lead that bench unit. I think that this team, we're going to be back betting Knicks second quarter because that bench is like incredible. The bench is very, very good. And whether it's Quentin Grimes, who stood out in summer league, but like Miles McBride's been playing great minutes in preseason. So I like all these guys, and I think that the Knicks are going to be excellent in the second quarter again. So that's going to be an angle I'm looking to play right away. And I think that Brunson's such a good floor raiser, and the Knicks just didn't really have a direction last year in terms of their offense, that I'm not as worried about like the offense clicking as it would be like, say, with the Cavs, because you have two ball dominant ish guards playing. Like right now, it's like the Knicks didn't have a guard. So now you're like giving them a facilitator. I think that they're going to be fine right away. And I'm going to be looking to bet them probably like pretty early as a team that might not be valued appropriately because there was so much potential Mitchell hype that it's like people are like, oh, like they're not going to be that good now. But it's like they underperformed last year because of a variety of injuries to the point guard position. And I think now you're getting that back and like depth. So I think that they're going to, I'm trying not to be Homer, but I'm a little bit more optimistic about them at least being like well within the play-in range for sure. And like maybe contending for like that's 5 or 6, depending on how well it goes.
So I was with you all the way until that last clause. I don't know about the 5 or 6 seed, but I agree with all the rest, actually.
Yeah.
I think this is with Jalen Brunson there, like we forget exactly how awful the point guard situation was last year. So I think just having Brunson there significantly raises the floor of the team.
Yeah.
I don't know that it really moves the ceiling needle for me. I don't like the ceiling on the team. That was the point of the Donovan Mitchell trade potentially.
Yeah.
So, but the floor is important. That's why I think, the win total is going to be good for them, but more so having a solid floor with a good defense and a great bench unit. You didn't even mention our guy, Isaiah Hartenstein. Like Knicks fans are going to love this dude.
I just drafted him in fantasy.
Yeah. So, I mean, the Knicks are one of those. I think the Knicks are going to be a cover machine, even with the hype on them. That's inevitably going to be there just because they're going to show up and play defense every night. They're going to have that second unit every night and bring their depth. Like those are the things that cover in regular season. And I wonder too, it just struck me, Jalen Brunson, we know he's going to have, stretches where he plays like 38 minutes a game for a couple weeks at a time, just because Tibbs.
Yeah.
Could we get like a Fred VanVleet sort of season? Like I could see some Freddie numbers there and that's why I kind of like the most improved. VanVleet for me has been kind of a fringe all NBA contender. And I could see, similar, smaller sort of player, but we've seen VanVleet too with somewhat inflated numbers because he's playing like 47 minutes a night for Toronto. What do you think about that one?
No, I think that that's totally within play. And I think that's also why I prefer for most improved. If you're going to bet a Nick, you bet Brunson rather than RJ. RJ was playing 40 minutes a game last year. Like there's only so many more minutes he can play. So like Brunson, like this is a significant uptick and he's at the point guard position. He's going to have the ball in his hands. Like he's in charge of his usage. And I think that that's like a critical point. So I totally can see that. And I think that's why it's such a good bet for most improved. You got to at least have it in your portfolio.
All right. Well, from your local team to mine, let's talk about the Bulls a little bit. I think we just need to see which Bulls do we get from last year, like which version of the team. It's been a long time, but early in the season, this was a 1 seed. Like they were right there at the top of the East. Now we know the underlying numbers said that they really shouldn't have been, and it sort of evened out over time. But I think perhaps it over evened out in time. The injuries kind of threw things off a little bit, maybe. So I'm curious, just where do they land on the spectrum? Like I was working on Coach of the Year earlier and looking at, okay, well, for the Bulls to be in the mix for that, they need to get to 54 wins or whatever the number was. And I was like, well, no, the Bulls aren't that good. They can't do that. And then as I thought, I was like, well, for half of the year last year, they absolutely were that good. And they were right on pace for that. And then I feel like we just kind of totally wrote them off. So what do we get from this team? And how much do they miss Lonzo? What happens, with Ayo Dosunmu? How do we get, I think, too much Goran Dragic and apparently 3-point shooting Andre Drummond? Dude hit 3 threes in the preseason.
I don't know what that was.
He shoots like 8% for his career. Like he literally has seasons where he's like 2 of 29 for the season or something. So I don't know. I worry that they'll rely a little bit too much on those veterans on the team. I do want to see Pat Williams. We've been waiting on him for a while. So yeah, I just want to see which version of the Bulls from last year is in this team. Who are we going to get?
Yeah, I mean, the Lonzo stuff's tough because like I hope he can play. Like I love like I think his game is like perfect for this team too. Like he's great defender, switch all, like tertiary ball handler, secondary ball handler. And then his defense has been excellent. So like you want him to play. Io's been great. They said he's gonna realistically be the starter. In 40 games as a starter last year, he averaged like 11, 5.5 assists, and like about almost 4 rebounds. Like those are good numbers. And he'll be fine, I think, especially after like a year in the NBA, a year of their real off-season workouts and stuff, and then like knowing he's going to be the starter and playing with like the rest of these guys. But I don't know. I personally, I've bet them to miss the playoffs. I don't really like this team. Like, and it's not like that. I think that they're good, but like, I just think that they're upside is like not super high. And I think that due to the age of the roster, that I think I can see like a lot of downside because I'm just like, is it going to fall off at some point? Like, what's going on here? So, and DeRozan had a crazy year last year.
Yeah.
And I don't know to what extent he can replicate that now. So I'm a little cooler on them. And I bet that because I don't really see them as a top 6 team. So it's like if they're in the play in, and then they lose, I can really either hedge it because it's
Yeah.
plus money, or like if they lose out, then they're not in the playoffs anyway.
Yeah, I agree with all that. But do you think that means is this a team that we bet right now, like on these opening games, while other than Lonzo, while they are healthy and before the drop off comes, is this team a little undervalued perhaps right now because of how bad the year ended for them? Like, is there a little bit of a buyback for you, or are you just staying away?
I think you could. I think it just depends on the spot because like I know like they start off the season playing the Miami Heat. So like that's not necessarily a team that like I want to fade them again or like bet them against because like
Yeah.
I think Miami's good. Like they take care of business. Like I feel like they do what they're supposed to do. But like if you're gonna get them against like a team that might be a little overhyped, like honestly, like if they're playing the Cavs, then like yeah, I might bet on the Bulls just based on like the off-season hype machine, you know?
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Let's do the Heat since we're talking about them. I haven't forgotten your Philadelphia 76ers. We're going to come back to them. But so for the Heat, for me, who's the fifth starter? Like, is it our guy Yurt? Is Yurt going to be Yurtsevens in the starting lineup? Is that it? And then if it is, then what does that mean for Bam Adebayo? Like, does that actually change his role very much? And obviously, I think he's the second favorite for Defensive Player of the Year. So does that help or hurt? What does that look like for him? And I think I just need to see too, like it, they had a long run last year, and we got Jimmy Butler and Kyle Lowry, who are like 300 years old in basketball years right now. Like,
Yeah.
so I do they look old? Do they look tired coming out of the gates? Because I'm a little worried long term about what the trajectory looks like for this team here this season after that long season.
Yeah.
I kind of just want to see the energy level and how locked in are they, and is there some residual? Hey, we didn't really get Kevin Durant. We paid Tyler Hero, but we're not totally sure if we wanted to. Do we have to start him now? Like, it feels like this is, even though we're mostly running it back, it feels like this is kind of weirdly, we tried to change things up and didn't quite get there. So I kind of just want to see, yeah, I guess another vibes team for me.
Yeah, like I don't like them futures wise, based on like a lot of those reasons. Like I didn't really like them last year, and I think they just happened to get like a really good break in terms of the playoff schedule that they had. Um, Matt's been saying that like Yurt's gonna start alongside Bam. So that's really interesting. I think it's gonna take Bam away from the basket. It's probably gonna lower his rebounds. And that's part of why I don't like him for DPOI. Because I was looking at him and I was like, maybe that's a bet because he's like in the conversation kind of like every year. Everybody knows he's like a great defender. He's never gonna win like MVP, but I'm a little concerned. It's like if the rebounds go down, like people just for some reason associate rebounds with defense. And it's I think he's gonna be maybe try to be used a little bit more as a scorer because they don't want to put Hero in the starting lineup.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a concern. And I I'm wondering to what extent Kyle Lowry was just like, was it old? Like I know he had a lot of personal things going on last year, but he in theory should really help this team if he's like healthy and able to play. I mean, he still has talent, obviously, so we'll just have to see how that goes.
Yeah, well, and I'll speak to the Bam thing too, because so I think that you're right about the rebounding thing. I hadn't thought about that. So rebounds are part of defense because a rebound ends a possession, which is literally the point of defense.
Yeah,
So like we know that, but the point of that is we don't have a lot of defensive metrics that are very reliable. And when somebody builds one of those metrics, a DBPM or Raptor or whatever all the fancy metrics are, how is there not a Draymond metric for defense? Yeah, there's got to be something for that out there. Starts with
yeah,
a D. Come on, people. So, but like they only have so many things to use. Rebounds absolutely goes into those metrics. If you look at a guy sometime and you're like, why is his advanced metric defense so high? Why is he getting so much credit? Almost always rebounding is a pretty good reason for it. See also
yeah,
Russell Westbrook, great defender. Russell
yeah.
Westbrook, not a great defender, but gets a lot of rebounds. So I think that's interesting. That is a thing to keep in mind because even though that should have nothing to do with how we rate defensive player of the year, if all we have is a few numbers and that one number does change things, I think that could play out. All right, let's do Sixers. Came back to them on our list. The people don't even know what our list is. So this is
No.
just me and you, Joe. I'm high on the Sixers, as you know. I've bet them every which way so far. So I want to see what I've been looking for. I want to see them come out of the gate hot. Our guy Tyrese Maxey,
It's
I think,
good.
averaged 40 points per 36 in the preseason, which last I checked, pretty good.
Yeah, great.
um,
Excellent.
yeah, so I want to see. I've been betting on this team because of the defense. So show me the defense right away. I want to see it
Yeah.
right out of the gates. Doc, do you have this defense ready? You've got all the talent that you need there. What do the rotations look like? Because I want, as a team that, or as a guy that's bet on Philadelphia, I want to see PJ Tucker and Daniel House and D'Anthony Melton, Matthias Thybulle. I want to see, in my opinion, three good defenders. I'm going to count Embiid as one of them. Embiid
Yeah.
plus two defense guys and not very much where we get a lineup with Harden and Maxey and Tobias Harris. I don't need
Yeah.
that in my life. Give me two of those guys or one of them and put those defenders out there. Can we balance our lineups and not just play the four presumptive stars on this team? So I'm looking for that early. And then, of course, just like what's left of James Harden and what is his
Yeah.
role going to be on this team? Is he an assist overs guy? Is he a points unders guy? That's how I lean early. But what do you think with
That,
him or with
that's
this team?
That's exactly what I'm looking at too for Harden because what I've noticed in preseason anyway is he has really taken a step back in terms of his scoring, but his assists have kind of spiked a bit. So I think that that bodes pretty well for a lot of the other guys that are playing on the team. I think it helps I think it helps the offense a lot. But the one thing is though, you have to then I think then it gets a little dangerous where if you're going to play him in a rotation like that where it's like three defensive guys, him and Embiid, it's like it can't like at that point he needs to be a scorer to try to
Yeah.
help stretch the floor. But I think that that's great for guys like Maxey or Tobias Harris because if they're playing alongside of him, I think that we could see their points or like their threes like increase because Harden's gravity is still crazy and he's still an excellent facilitator. So I'm 100% with you. I like if they're going to be putting out lines like 21 and a half, 22 and a half on his points, I think those are like easy under bets. And, you know, if you're going to get like 9.5, 10.5 assists, like it's entirely possible he could lead the league in assists, but like I know he's one of the favorites, so it's not really
Yeah.
like a bet to make.
Yeah, I think he is the favorite and probably the right favorite there. But I think you can bet it night to night though, especially if it spikes early. It always takes books, a few games to adjust the line on that sort of a thing. So
Yeah.
I think assist overs there makes sense. I'm interested too. Like you mentioned, we talked about this with DeJounte Murray. Is there a version of James Harden that plays point guard when the stars are playing, but then turns back into Rockets James Harden when it's not that way? I'm skeptical. Like I'm not skeptical that Harden exists anymore. I think it still is in there more than people will credit. I'm skeptical that his mental side of the game can let him switch back and forth like that between quarters, between stints,
Yeah.
especially. So
I
yeah, I'm
think
worried
that
about
guy's
that.
yeah, I think that guy's gonna be Tyrese Maxey. It's like gonna
Mm.
be you're playing with Embiid, you're playing with Harden, you're gonna play one way, like maybe take a little bit more threes. When he's on the floor by himself, it's gonna be drive to the hoop. So I think he's the guy maybe with the mentality change more than anybody else.
So let me ask you this. I was on I think I was texting with Matt more the other day about this. So I'll ask you the same question. Thought had not really dawned on me till I was watching another preseason game where Maxey was just absolutely lighting it up again, like out of the gates. Like he scores 15
Yeah.
of their first 20 points every night. Give me a percentage chance. We know Joel Embiid is the best player on this team. What percentage chance is there to you that Tyrese Maxey is the second best player on this Philadelphia team?
Um,
And
I
is
think it's
that good
low.
if that happens?
I think it's low. So okay, so I think it's low that it is, and I think it's bad if it is too, because I think that Harden's a lot more important than Maxey just because of what he does spacing wise. And I don't think that Maxey has the same type of respect in like the league, and I think that that would change the way that Embiid is covered and defended.
Hmm.
So I think that like if Maxey's the second best player in the team, then like unless he takes like some outrageous
Yeah,
leap forward, then like okay, fine. Like, but as even with a step forward, I still don't think he's better than Harden. Like that's why you went and you got Harden.
right.
Like he's still like the like one of the like a top, I don't know, 15 guy. I think you like have to say. So it's like, is Maxi top 15? Like I don't think so.
Yeah, and I think too, to your point is if Maxi is that good, does he have that potential? I think we all see it. So maybe he gets there. The problem is if Maxi is suddenly a top 25 sort of guy, absolutely could get there. But if he is that and is the second best player, I'm very worried for what that means for James Harden. Like,
Yeah.
and then intuitively what that means for the team, because you went out and gave so much to get him. And what does that leave? Because we've seen kind of with Russell Westbrook, when you don't get to be Russ, you're not really valuable anymore. Now, James can shoot, but if you don't get to be James Harden and do any of the Harden things and handle less and drive
Yeah.
less, what are you? Because if you're still a traffic cone on defense and you're not the Harden things on offense, that version scares me a little bit.
Yeah.
So, as someone that has bet on Sixers over, Sixers one seed, Doc Rivers coach of the year, Joel Embiid defensive player of the year, I hope that that's not the case that we get. I love a strong Maxi is number 2B on the team. That'd be great for
Yeah.
me.
That's great for them.
All right. Speaking of a team with hype, the Detroit Pistons. Detroit basketball is back. I am fading the hype hard to start this season. I think that this team is not good. I don't think that they're going to be great offensively. They're a very young team. They're going to try on defense. So I think they'll be decent defensively, relatively speaking. But I think the hype has gotten out of control. I am absolutely betting against this team out of the gates.
Yeah, I mean they're playing the Magic in their first game of the season. Like Detroit's at home, they're 4.5 point favorite to the Magic, and like I don't know, I think the Magic are better. Especially with the Bagley injury. The Bagley injury to me is significant, especially if he's going to miss time at the beginning of the year. So you're getting this guy who's playing like very meaningful minutes, like good minutes for them last season, and then now it's like he's gonna be out to start the season on a team that's overhyped. So I think that this win total has actually gone up so high. I'm close to betting the under on it. And like, I hate betting unders on things. But I think it's up to like 29.5. And it opened at what, 25.5? Like that's a huge swing for what? Like, why did it move that much? Like hype? I don't know. Like, I think Cade can take a step forward, but I'm not really sold on this team.
Yeah, I want to keep an eye closely on what Killian Hayes are we getting. Let me specify. I already
Should
know
we?
what Killian Hayes we're getting. We're getting a bad Killian Hayes. How much Killian Hayes are we getting? And I think the answer is going to be too much, and by more too much than it should. It's time to move on. It's Jaden Ivey's season.
Yeah.
Get Killian out of here. But I think it's going to take some time. So I'll probably be looking, if we get lines, to fade, take the under on Ivy lines early on, because I think we're going to see too much Killian Hayes and, maybe even some minutes together. And now Ivy's not on the ball and that's muting him a little bit. So I'm worried a little bit about that. He's not good. Go play in Europe. We had fun. Thanks for coming over to our draft. It's not your season anymore. Like the Pistons have moved on. We got Cade, we got Ivy, we got Jalen Duren. Like it's a fun team. I want to watch them. Yeah, I want to see this team play, but I'm just going to be betting against them. You mentioned they're playing the Magic. Let's do Magic next. I want to watch the Magic because I want to see, Paolo. Is Paolo rookie of the year? I'm in heavily on him. So what does he look like? And it's fun watching the preseason. Paolo plus Franz Wagner plus Wendell Carter
Yeah.
Jr. Those are three good front court passers, and the ball has really popped to me. Like that offense, I've assumed was going to be pretty bad because they don't have any guards on the team, and even the ones they do have are all injured. But the ball is moving with those three, and I think that's presumably that's your three starters. Thank God Franz is back, so we don't have to play Paulo
He's
at the
awesome.
three anymore. That was ridiculous in the preseason. But I don't know. The Magic defend some again because Jamal Mosley has them defending. So I don't, I'm not ready to say the Magic are going to be good or make the playoffs or anything like that. But I think this team, they're one to keep an eye on because I want to see Paulo and Franz. Franz, people are going to assume Paulo is the best player on the team, and the numbers, the raw numbers, will probably back that up. Franz is the best player on this team, and Franz Wagner is going to be really good.
He's so good. And like I think if anybody was watching Eurobasket with me, Franz was awesome for Germany, like absolutely incredible. And like I think that was big for him, like personally. Like I mean, like I know he knows he's good. Like he knows he's good, obviously, but like he was really leading that team, and like they were looking for him. He was finding his shot. He was finding guys like with open looks. He was getting rebounds. Like that's what this Magic team actually kind of needs. Like they need a guy that's like not only willing to get his own bucket, but get buckets for other guys. And I think that that's going to be super important, especially for the development of Paolo, because he's going to be on a team like with another guy that's like good, rising, like he's improving like game after game after game, and that is unselfish. And like as a big man, like it's hard to like Powell is not like a point big, like he's not like bringing the ball up to court, like that's not really what he's doing. So like to have Franz help like and distribute and be willing, I think that's going to be great for this offense and really help Paolo like put up bigger numbers, I think.
Yeah, I do too. And one other thing, I mentioned the lack of guards. The one guard they do have is Cole Anthony. Give me the Cole Anthony overs to start the
Oh
year
yeah.
because last year, for the first month or so of the season, he was putting up real numbers. Like I always do a 1 month All Star just to kind of get a glimpse at where's the league standing. And Cole Anthony was like my last cut off of the Eastern 1 month All Stars last year. He was putting up like mid 20s points per game. I think he's going to get points and assists. Like I want the overs early because somebody on this team has to soak up the usage. And, Franz is not really going to be a huge usage guy, I don't think. Wendell Carter is not that. Paolo is going to get a bunch of it. But I think Cole Anthony, there's going to be plenty to go around for him. All right.
That's going to be great.
5 teams left in the East. These are the ones at the end. So we'll whip through these a little faster. But of course, I'm just going to throw it to you for this one. The Midwestern favorite, Indiana Pacers, and your Tyrese Halliburton. What are you watching for with your Pacers and your Hallie?
Hallie's gonna be great. I don't know, like that's it. Book it. He's gonna be awesome. No, like look, the numbers he was putting up without Brogdon last season, and it was almost like the exact same thing. It's like when he was playing with Brogdon and when he was playing with Fox, and then when he wasn't playing with them, the difference was so significant. And I think it's just because he was deferring in a way to like the guys, like the veterans. And it's like this is the time, like he's been spoken to, like they're letting him know it's like you run the offense, like this is your team. And I don't think it's crazy to see him take a jump. He was averaging like 18, 10, and almost 5 rebounds without Brogdon, and it was similar stats without Fox. It he was doing it like ultra efficiently, 50% from the field, almost 40% from three. I don't see why he can't just continue to do this. And like at least at the beginning of the season, he's gonna have some great weapons. Like he's gonna have Miles Turner, he should have Duarte, like he should have those guys, like Buddy Hield even. So I think that if the Pacers don't trade these guys, like they might not be as bad as we think they're gonna be, but it's gonna be a sad day if they shut them down because of tanking.
Yeah, it was going to tank your most improved ticket, your fancy basketball team that you drafted literally like an hour ago before this podcast. Is going to tank a lot of Joe Delara Halliburton stock if that happens. I want overs on this team. I expect the offense to be pretty good, and I expect the defense to be really bad. Like Miles Turner can't do it all, and there's not a lot else here. So I think overs early before things adjust. You're looking for Halliburton overs as well?
Yeah, I think so too. And I think I'm going to be looking if they're going to set his points and assist line at 24 and a half, like that's just a smash like every game. It's going to be a smash every game. But I'm going to be looking for it. I'm curious to see where they put the line at. One thing that he was sneaky good at though, and you mentioned this in regards to like the pace, is he was getting a lot of steals. He was getting almost 2 steals a game. So I'm going to see where they put that line at, because if they're going to play at a faster pace, which I think we both expect, that just means there's going to be more opportunities for steals. The offense, I think, should be decent. But you know, if they're playing faster, maybe he'll have a little bit more opportunity on the defensive end for like that kind of picking stat, or so to
I
speak.
love it. Tyrese Halliburton steals escalators. That's what the people come here for. All
Hey, why
right.
not?
Milwaukee Bucks, I gotta see, is this preseason malaise a real thing?
They're
Because
0 and
they went
5.
0-5. They're done. Because they had the Abu Dhabi trip. So they look tired. And I gotta say, they look old. And this team is
Yeah.
not the youngest either. Like we kind of just pencil in that, oh, I think the Bucks are they the favorites to win it all? Well, that's because of Giannis. Giannis is great and not going anywhere. But what about the rest of the team? They're
Yeah.
clearly missing Chris Middleton right now, and a lot of the other role players around there, they're old guys, like Brooke Lopez is getting older and has the back history. We got Wes Matthews playing big minutes on this team.
Crazy.
There's, like Serge Ibaka. He's got some basketball years on him. There's not a lot of like youth or exciting upside on this team. So
Yeah.
if the guys look old and injured, there's not many other answers here. I think you have to fade the Bucks coming out of the gates because they've been terrible in the preseason. I think you have to fade them until they prove otherwise. Am I reading too much into the preseason here?
No, I mean, I think that that's a fair point, and it's kind of one of those things. It's like preseason doesn't matter, but like you should try to win a game, and
Right.
like like you said, they have some older guys. They got Ingles, which is like nice. They got, and I'm really curious to see what kind of role they give to. I hope I'm not mispronouncing it, but Marjan Beauchamp. I'm wondering what his development is going to be, because I think it might be low key important for this Bucks team for him to like get meaningful minutes and be good come playoffs time. So and like be able to at least be a scorer or something for them.
Yeah, I think you're right. And the fact that your defense to my are the Bucks bad right now was torn ACL, old Joe Ingles, and rookie G leaguer Marjan Beauchamp, like that worries me a little bit. That like
Yeah.
those sound like the solutions for like the Wizards who we're about to talk about. That seems like their
Oh
answer
God.
to the question. You should not be a title favorite, and your answers are off ACL Joe Ingles and rookie Marjan Beauchamp. So I think that answered my question a little bit for
Fair.
me. The Toronto Raptors, kind of weirdly uninteresting to me because after all the possible KD hype, they're sort of just the same thing. What are you looking
Yeah.
for with Toronto?
Just to see what kind of leap maybe Scotty Barnes really takes in this year. And like I am wondering, like, do they make a move? Because I personally I think OG Anunoby is like very overrated, but like apparently he's not. Like so, but like he's a guy that's like a trade piece. Like I don't know. Like I feel like they have a lot of redundant talent. And like I want to see them make a move to like shake it up a little bit. And like, is Nick Nurse going to play these guys 40 minutes a game again?
I mean, why not?
I don't know. It's great for their individual like prop overs, I guess. Like at least at the beginning of the season,
Yeah, until it
because
adjusts.
yeah, until it adjusts that they're going to play like 40 minutes a game, and then it's like, all right, well, their stat line is just like, are they going to get in foul trouble? Because if they are, then they're not even going to get close to this. So I'm not super excited to watch them though.
Yeah, Canadian Tibbs up there just running his guys into the ground.
Yeah.
Wizards, I might want to play the Wizards early.
Hmm.
This is a team that I'm not intrigued by them. They just have a bunch of NBA dudes. They just have like 9 quality rotation of players. Like they're a team, I think, especially as we get into the grind of the season, they're a team that's going to catch someone off guard because they're just going to have Will Barton coming at you some night or Kyle Kuzma. Kristaps
Porzingis.
Porzingis was pretty good last year, actually. Like
Yeah. As
he
long as he
was kind of
plays, he's
putting up,
good.
yeah. And obviously Brad Beal is back. There's players on this team. I'm not super hyped about them, but we forget last year for about a month or 6 weeks or so, the Wizards were the top of the East. Like they were the 1 seed for a while. Wes Unseld Jr. was the Sun Buzz Coach of the Year favorite. is that in there? Like, can he coach up the defense and get something better than what, oh my goodness, it got to later in the year? I think the Wizards are actually a team that I'm gonna have to bet on them early on, because just because no one's talking about them. Like, it's almost a contrarian play, and there's enough dudes there that someone's gonna show up each night.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going to be trying to back the Wizards early while everybody's at least healthy.
Yeah, that's true too. You know who I'm not going to bet early? The Charlotte Hornets.
Okay.
What do we say about the Hornets? No Melo for a while at least. And I have a suspicion a while might be a more while than we're counting for right now. No Miles Bridges, obviously, for very other reasons.
Yeah.
This feels like the Hornets go like 1-12 while LaMelo is out. And then we already know where the season goes from there. Like, is this like, are you just fading the living daylights out of this team with me?
I have no intention of betting on them, and like I think that they're gonna be weird because I think people for some reason like people think that they're good, and like I think that like even without LaMelo, people are gonna be wanting to bet on them, which is a little odd. But I have no intention of betting on them. I wouldn't be surprised to see Terry Rozier and Gordon Hayward in new places. Soon, like by the trade deadline, and like maybe just try to pack it in. I think they're going to be bad, like very bad.
Like aggressively bad,
Yeah,
because Victor Wembanyama and Scoot Henderson, they're just hanging out, waiting out there. And some of these teams are going to pull the plug earlier than we're used to on this thing. And it sort of feels like the Hornets might have done that before the year even started.
100%.
And that LaMelo ankle might have gotten them off on the right foot, I guess, pun intended on that one. I might play some Terry Rozier props early, because somebody's got to do stuff for that team. And no LaMelo, no Bridges. We just suddenly opened up like 45 points from the metaverse that somebody has to take on over there. So I don't know, like James Bouknight, are you out here? Somebody's got to do
I
things
like
for that
James. Yeah,
team.
he's good. Yeah, he's good. So
Yeah.
that somebody's gonna score, but no, I'm not excited for them overall.
No. All right. Well, we've got to the James Bouknight part of the podcast. I think that means it's time to wrap it up for the East. So that is going to do it for the Eastern Conference part of our Buckets season mega preview blowout. We'll be back. Actually, I think you're getting part 2 right now. We're putting them both out on Monday, the day before the season. So make sure to check out the Western Conference as well. Of course, at Action Network, we've got you covered for everything you need for basketball all season. We'll have game guides up, let you know what bets to make, of course, for opening night. We've got all sorts of articles up on futures, awards, divisions. Matt Moore put in an article on every single team's win total over under. And I think we even have an article up that has all 30 in one place. So just like pull up some toilet paper and jump into the bathroom and get the Matt Moore 30 team win total, and just give yourself like a half an hour and just dive in and read everything you need. And this stuff will be good. We're here on Buckets all season long. So we'll catch you next time on the Western Conference preview. Let's get buckets.